Good evening. I am so pleased to look out and see such a full house here to celebrate together Dr. Furchgott's, the 20th anniversary of Dr. Furchgott receiving the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine. I am Hillary Michelson, president of the RobertF.Furchgott Society, and on behalf of myself and Dr. Danny Rosenbaum, who's our vice president, I'm so happy to welcome you and thank you all for joining us in this really wonderful celebration. I'd like to first welcome our esteemed guests, and I'd like to first start with the Furchgott Society. It's a little bit bright. I don't know where you're sitting, but we have a number of Dr. Furchgott's family here joining us tonight. They are absolutely lovely. I hope everyone has a chance to meet with them and talk with them. They are as unassuming and as humble as their dad and their grandfather. And so I'm so pleased that they could be here and join us from flying all across the country and Hawaii. It was quite the trip, so thank you so much. I'd like to welcome Dr.Louis Ignarro, the co-winner, one of the co-winners of the 1998 Nobel Prize with Dr. Furchgott. He was also our visiting professor today, and he gave just a wonderful lecture to the downstate community. And I have heard so many lovely compliments about how much people enjoyed your talk. So thank you so much for that. I'd also like to welcome Dr. Claire Pomeroy, who's president of the Lasker Foundation. For those non-scientists that among us, the Lasker Award is the essentially the American equivalent of the Nobel. And Dr. Furchgott was the recipient of the Lasker Award in 1996. So we're very, very honored to have you with us, Dr. Pomeroy. Dr. John Dirks is here as well. Dr. Dirks was president and scientific director of the Gairdner Foundation in Canada at the time that Dr. Furchgott was the recipient of the Gairdner International Award in 1991. So Dr. Dirks, thank you so much for joining us. It's an honor. I'd like to thank Mr. Ellis Rubenstein, our host for the evening, president and CEO of the New York Academy of Sciences. Every once in a while, as I was mingling amongst everybody, I had an opportunity to look out at the view that all of us, just take a moment and look out at this view that we're offered from the New York Academy of Sciences. It is absolutely breathtaking, and I thank Mr. Rubenstein for inviting us in and allowing us to have our gala here at this lovely venue. And incidentally, I would be remiss if I didn't thank Dr. Mark Stewart, Dean of the Graduate School, who suggested this venue and actually made the initial contacts to make that happen. So thank you, Mark. We have Dr. Ray Damadian here with us as well. Dr. Damadian was the inventor of the MRI. Long-standing affiliation with Downstate. Thank you for joining us, and a strong supporter for so many years of the Furchgott Society. So thank you so much for that. Did I miss anybody? I think I've just about covered everybody I wanted to. Downstate, is spent the last couple of days celebrating this wonderful anniversary of Dr. Furchgott receiving the Nobel Prize. Dr. Furchgott spent over 40 years pursuing his research at Downstate. And these 2 days of celebrations has been a wonderful way for all of us to join together and to share in the legacy that Dr. Furchgott left with us. We began with an unveiling of the permanent display of the Nobel Prize and proclamation. And I again would like to thank the Furchgott family for sharing these, those enormous gifts of this personal history of Dr. Furchgott that they're allowing us to keep on display permanently in the lobby of the Basic Science Building. And I would encourage everyone, if you haven't had a chance to go by and see the Nobel, it's now on permanent display there, so please do. We arranged a gallery in the lobby of the Basic Science Building that allowed everyone a glimpse at into really the depth and the breadth of Dr. Furchgott's research and scientific impact of his findings. We had a seminar for high school students and downstate, and we had another talk for the downstate community. We had the visiting professor lecture from Dr. Ignarro, and tonight we're all coming together for this final gala. I am so truly moved by the enthusiasm that everyone in the downstate community has shown for for this celebration of Dr. Furchgott. He really remains such a beloved figure for all of us that are affiliated with Downstate. So thank you again for joining us. Most of us, I think, know the story of Dr. Furchgott's road to the Nobel and how it began with a technical error, a tissue prep gone wrong, that most of us would have just exploded and moved on. But Dr. Furchgott had the incredible insight to realize what an opportunity that particular error opened up for him. And he spent the next 20 years pursuing a whole new line of inquiry. But I don't know if as many of you realize that technical error occurred in May of 1978. So 20 years into Dr. Furchgott's tenure in Brooklyn, when he was the tender age of 62. So, I use Dr. Furchgott as the example I always point to when people say, oh, it's too late for me. It is never too late. It's never too late to start anew. So I thank you, Bob Furchgott, for that. I have one other story I wanted to tell that really, I think, reflects Dr. Furchgott's essence. He was, as I said, such a humble and unassuming man. The day after he received the Nobel Prize, he was in the lab with his white lab coat on. And every time I passed him in the hall, I was at that time a much younger scientist. Every time we would pass in the hall, he would stop and he would ask me about my research. What am I doing? What am I thinking? Where am I going next? And I can't explain to you what an impact those conversations had, how uplifting they were, that this great and brilliant man was so interested in, my little science project that made me feel that I could be as impactful as his Nobel Prize winning research. I think it was the wonderful Maya Angelou who once said, people may forget what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And Dr. Furchgott made me feel so special and so uplifted in all of those conversations. And so I've always been really grateful for that. So before I introduce our next speaker, I would like to spend the next page and a half, I'm sorry, please indulge me, thanking everyone that was so integral in bringing this night and this celebration together. The best leaders lead by example, and President Riley, you and your office have led by example to bring this evening together, this whole celebration together, and I cannot thank you enough for that. Dr. Riley, truly, thank you. This was, so everyone knows, President Riley's idea to create this celebration, this 20th anniversary celebration of Dr. Furchgott's legacy. And he has remained invested and involved every step of the way, for impromptu meetings down the hall to all-night emails. He and his office, Dr. Gwynn, I want to make sure I remember everybody, Dr. Gwynn, Dawn, Raina, Jelani, Kachi, Michael Harrell, all of you were so committed to making this anniversary celebration come together. And I appreciate all of your insights and all of your availability. I think thanks to you, this has been fabulous. Dr. Wong and the Department of Physiology and Pharmacology, which my home away from home, the department and Dr. Wong have been so unbelievably supportive of the society and everything we've tried to accomplish, our mission on the campus. It's been unwavering and it's been substantial. Dr. Wong's department underwrote the cost of putting together the gallery that's now on display in the Basic Science Building lobby. And I actually think it turned out really nicely, if I do say so myself. All of you If you haven't had a chance to walk through the Basic Science Building lobby to take a look at the gallery, please do. It had such a positive reception that I understand some of my colleagues got in touch with President Riley to suggest that perhaps we, extend its lifetime. And in fact, Dr. Riley has agreed to extend the tenure of the gallery exhibit in the Basic Science Building lobby for another several weeks. So please take a few minutes, walk through. It will really give you an appreciation for the impact that Dr. Furchgott has had, and the appreciation that the world feels towards Dr. Furchgott and his impact in science. The Department of Philanthropy has been extraordinary in giving us guidance, helping us. They do galas, they know what they're doing. I know nothing, less than nothing. And we could not have gotten through all of this planning without their input and advice, and their accounting and keeping us, honorable. So I want to thank Ingrid Dildy and Heidi Christensen for truly being there. Those last-minute calls to get checks cut, you were fabulous. The Office of Biomedical Illustrations and the AV departments have been invaluable. John Zubrovich, I think I said that correctly, right? Has been so important, driving the creative presentations and aspects of the celebration. Howard Erskine, wherever he is helping us with has been so instrumental in the AV portions of the celebration, and all of their teams. And let's make sure I remember as many of them as I can. Marcos and Sean and Aaron, thank you so much for your help and for capturing these moments so that we can look back and really appreciate the celebration that we're sharing. We had so many worker bees in the back packing the swag bags, in addition to the Furchgott family, might I add, helping us, pack the swag bags yesterday. They were really extraordinary. But other helpers, Linda and Ellen and Nancy and Arlene, Cheryl Marriott, the archivist who helped us with the gallery. I'm sure I'm forgetting other people. Thank you all for everything you were doing in the background. I can't, of course, I have two more big ones, so I am almost done. Our sponsors, our donors, and our members. Without you, none of this would have happened. The mission of the Furchgott Society has been not only to bring in world-renowned scientists like Dr. Ignarro to give talks to the Downstate community, but also providing grants and awards to young investigators and students who were showing great promise as scientists. We could not have accomplished those aspects of our mission without the support of our donors and our sponsors and our members. I want to first acknowledge our Nobel Laureate level sponsors, who are Dr. Randy Barbour with Nitric, Dr. Ron Tenniswood from MIR Scientific, thank you so much. Dr. Damadian, of course, and Fonar had been wonderfully supportive of us for so long, and I'm really, truly grateful for you guys. Our Stockholm level supporter, Dr. Richard Makier, who is somewhere in here, wherever he may be. Thank you, Dr. Makier. Dr. Makier was chair of urology at the time that Dr. Furchgott was awarded the Nobel. They were friends. He accompanied Dr. Furchgott to Stockholm for the award ceremony, extraordinary. And he was also the first president of the Furchgott Society. And so he was instrumental in establishing what I am so fortunate to be able to continue. The deans who bought tables for faculty to come and enjoy this evening, the chairs of the departments who do the same, thank you so much. Without your support, our society would not continue to flourish as it has, and I appreciate that. One more. And last, and certainly not least, our tour de force, the executive director of the Furchgott Society, Rose Jackman. Rose, please. As I said, to say that I knew nothing about pulling together a celebration like this would be an overstatement. I was probably counterproductive. the details and the minutia to bring together an event or a series of events such as this, along with the award ceremony for the Furchgott Scholars, they are overwhelming for mere mortals like me. But Rose, piece of cake. She was, I think, I do believe that Rose was driven by her devotion to the Furchgott family and the great respect and warmth she felt for Dr. Furchgott. They had a very wonderful and special relationship. And I think when you feel that way about someone, it's a labor of love to put something like this together. And so I truly believe that in spite of the emails and the phone calls, of which sometimes I would just hold the phone up so that Rose could yell. It was fine. Let me know when you're done, okay? It was a wonderful experience, and I mean wonderful on every level. She has indeed made me a better society president than I would have been left to my own devices. I can say that for sure. Her commitment to the society and the Furchgott family is unparalleled. For one more time, can we have a round of applause for Rose? And now, thank you for your patience as I completed that very long introduction. I'd like to now introduce President Wayne Riley, president of SUNY Downstate. Thank you.
On Columbus Day, 1998, Robert Francis Furchgott had a very simple plan that day. His plan was to sleep late. But he was awakened at 5:30 a.m. by a phone call from a reporter from the New York Times who called to inform him that he and two other distinguished American scientists had been awarded the 1998 Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine. Within an hour, reporters were outside his front door wanting to talk to a new American legend. And colleagues and friends, that's why we're here. 20 years ago on Columbus Day, his great work, along with Professor Ignarro and Professor Murad, made a difference in the care of patients. Their hard work in the lab, the serendipity, the error, trial and error, made a difference in the lives of patients. And so that's why we're here, colleagues, to mark a great period, a great day, and a great man. And that is Robert Francis Furchgott. Now, in some ways, Dr. Furchgott, as I've learned about him, was a Renaissance man. He first became interested in science as a young boy in South Carolina, watching the birds fly around and land and take off, and their colors and their physiology of their muscles. And that scientific spark led directly to the great work that he and his collaborators conducted in laboratories. His contributions: photoregulation of blood vessels, factors influencing the contractility of cardiac muscle, peripheral adrenergic mechanisms, receptor theory and mechanisms. Those were seminal contributions and work that he conducted throughout his career, but principally within the four walls of the great institution that we serve, and that is the State University of New York Health Science Center at Brooklyn, Downstate Medical Center, right there in central Brooklyn, in the greatest city of the world. And so it's appropriate and fitting, colleagues, that we honor this great man, that we welcome back his family, because all of us in medicine and science know that it's not just a solitary pursuit. Families sacrifice for those of us who pursue discoveries, or take care of patients, or try to advance science. And it was without that loving family and his late wife, Lenore, that I'm sure Dr. Furchgott would say deserved equal amount of recognition. Let's give. Now, we're joined tonight by Jane, Susan, and Terry, and I'd like the three Furchgott daughters to stand. They've come from Hawaii, Seattle, and one other place I'm blocking on. But they are so well connected to us, and I want to thank them for the generosity of sharing the Nobel Prize medal itself with us. And it means something to all of us. It particularly means something to me because when I got here in April of 2017 as president, I said, I had a conversation with Rose. Rose came to see me, right? I said, Rose, where's the medal? And she says, well, it's in a safe. And I said, well, what the heck's doing in a safe? We need to put it out here. And she said, well, we're having the 20th anniversary in 19. I said, well, we got to have a celebration. And I said, Rose, I want the Nobel Prize permanently in a prominent space in our institution for visitors, students, faculty, staff, to see it on a daily basis, to see the greatness of the institution, but not necessarily just the greatness of the institution, the greatness of our potential at Downstate to serve New York City, Brooklyn, and the world. And so I am delighted, and I thank the Furchgott family. We also have two of Dr. Furchgott's granddaughters here, Chloe and Liberty. Chloe and Liberty, please stand. There they are. We have one son-in-law, Thomas. Is Thomas here? I saw Thomas earlier. There he is. And then we have the husband of one of the granddaughters, Sashi Mani. Where's Sashi Mani? I talked to him earlier. There he is. Again, family, thank you so much for allowing us to honor your loved one. This celebration is also particularly important during these very interesting times. We live in a time when the discourse out of Washington, D.C. is anti-science. It's anti-intellectual. It's nihilistic. And I don't know about you, but boy, did I need this night to remind us in this beautiful setting at this great institution, the New York Academy of Sciences, that it's the men and women like Robert Francis Furchgott who make a difference on a daily basis and are so important to the progress of the world and to humankind. Thank you very much.
I'd like to introduce Dr. Mark Stewart, who is going to introduce our next speaker. Dr. Mark Stewart is the Dean of the School of Graduate Studies, so thank you.
It's pretty obvious why this is a great venue, I think. I've been here many times. Chancellor Zimpfer, the previous chancellor for the SUNY system, was a member and at one time the head of the Board of Trustees for the New York Academy. This is an incredible venue. I've been here many times. Daytime, nighttime, there's nothing better. So I never know what I'm supposed to do until I get to the place where I'm supposed to do it. And so I was talking with Ellis Rubenstein because I'm supposed to introduce him. But before I get to that, I just want to talk a little bit about the New York Academy. He'll say more, and his words mean more than mine. But we at Downstate have had the privilege of working with the New York Academy for a number of years now. SUNY has engaged with the New York Academy. Downstate has engaged with the New York Academy in a number of projects. One of the biggest for us was a SUNY New York Academy National Science Foundation STEM project where Downstate graduate students from various schools were used to mentor middle school students. And when this project was first presented to us in the graduate school, I'm thinking, why are we mentoring middle school students? Until we spent a little time digging into what the composition of the student body was like in the area undergraduate campuses. And some of the undergraduate campuses had 5% four-year graduation rates, 15% six-year graduation rates. which means that most of the students had no shot at finishing within 4 years. And a lot of the reason for that was they came in unprepared for university work. They needed a lot more remediation of work where they were just passed through the high schools and showed up at the doors of a university. And so at that point, it made obvious sense why middle schools were an appropriate target. So the New York Academy has been a pioneer in trying to drive science education and opportunity through every level that you could imagine, from kindergarten, even preschool, through postgraduate programs. And my graduate students come here for a number of activities that are intended to help them with careers and things like that. I'm impressed. I had the opportunity to chat a little bit with Professor Ignarro in the morning, and he said the first call he got was from Hustler magazine, I think during his talk. So I'm not sure what was going on with that, but anyway, we were impressed because in New York, the Post obviously can butcher the general context of anything, and they did a great job with Bob Furchgott's Nobel Prize, referred to him as the aged love doc, which I'm sorry that wasn't part of the exhibit. Rose, we have to find that. Anyway, it's my pleasure to introduce Ellis Rubinstein. Ellis has led the New York Academy for the last 16 years. Before that, he was editor-in-chief at Science Magazine, and one of the things that he's proud of is he was an English major from Berkeley. So he's not like a lot of us scientists in the sense that we've gone through a certain path. He's taken quite a different path, but I think that different path has led him to a point of view and an approach to science education that's been really very powerful. The one thing he said is don't ask him about the 60s, so you can talk to him later about that. But anyway, this is a place that I'm always very pleased to come to. The Academy has done incredible work. We've been fortunate as a campus to work with them. We had I think the first SUNY Blavatnik Award, which is a major award that the Academy gives, and I would argue that we should have had two, because one of the other, Andrei Pisarev, was the first winner. And another winner was Eva Pastelkova, but most of the work that she was credited for, she did with us at Downstate. So much as we grumble about Bob Furchgott having the Nobel Prize, we're all cranky and in support of Dr. Damadian, that he should have had one, and Jim Ronk, that he should have had one. So it's an extraordinary campus. So we're very thankful for the chance to have collaborated with the Academy as much as we have. And so without further ado, Ellis Rubinstein.
Mark did so much work for me. I don't know why I really have, but because Mark, he said that he wasn't prepared until he got here to know what to say. I feel, because of what he just said, that I'm going to make a little prelude to my very short remarks to you. Just to say how much I was grateful first to John LaRosa, who's somewhere in here, for having realized, wherever you are, I can't, with these lights, you can understand. Hillary, thank you very much for even involving me, but our own lights, I don't know where anybody is. But John recognized very early on how we were transforming the Academy in my period here to bring all of the young scientists from all of our institutions here as part of Science Alliance. And the SUNY Downstate, this was before Nancy Zimpher discovered us, and so I was very grateful. And of course now, we couldn't be happier with Wayne's arrival, because Dr. Riley is a sensational leader that you have here, and so it's been, let's give him transformational guy. So having said that, just a couple of remarks. One is, that it's a little personally special for me that this award is being held here, because I was a brand new recruit to Science Magazine, initially to run the news section. And when I had improved it enough in the first couple of years there, our Eminence Grise, who was the real editor-in-chief, Dan Koshland, who was a great neuroscientist at Berkeley, who had recruited me, he had decided that the news department should start a new section called the Molecule of the Year, to make sort of a big noise about great science in this way. And in 1991, our very first Molecule of the Year was something that some of you will remember, because it was a super hot area called buckyballs. So in the physical sciences and material sciences, this was one of the hottest discoveries of the time, and it's been extremely important ever since. Then I got promoted in '92 to be the editor, the only person that ever had that title, before or after, of science. And our Molecule of the Year was Dr. Furchgott, which was nitric oxide. So it's kind of ironic for me to have your 20th anniversary. You're having it right here, and I'm thinking back about how exciting that was. 6 years later, of course, he got the Nobel, and unfortunately, it took me another year to meet my Swedish wife, who got me invited to the '99 Nobels. And that's a whole nother story that I won't bring in. It's like the '60s in Berkeley. Things like that are the things that if you give me enough wine, you'll get some good stories. So the only other thing I wanted to touch on, because I think it'll interest you and it relates to the whole evening. We do 200 events here a year, as you can imagine, with the space, and I'm very proud of them. But this is special to me in another way, because just 6 blocks away, 201 years ago, we were founded in the first medical school that existed in New York. And if you SUNY folks promise not to sneer, because if I use the words physicians and surgeons, it wasn't part of Columbia then. So you don't have to feel competitive. But the guy that you could see out there, Samuel Mitchell, who was really the founder of it, was a spectacular character that represents everything that I bet everybody in this room believes. He was a young medical student at Columbia when they didn't have a medical school, so he had to go to Scotland to get his MD degree. He's still actually a member of the Royal Scottish Academy. He came back, and in those days, he didn't teach like very narrow signal channeling. He taught everything: chemistry, physics, biology. That's what they did in those days. And after a few years at Columbia, where he was considered a genius, he decided he would run for Congress. Yes, that's what we like about scientists. And he won, and then he became a senator. And then when he came back from Washington, he joined what was the first medical school of New York, which wasn't part of Columbia. The funny part of it is that it wasn't part of Columbia until our members of the Academy, 30 years later, created a new university called New York University, And New York University had a medical school right from the beginning. And Columbia said, holy smoke, we can't not have a medical school, so they quickly bought physicians and surgeons. And that's how physicians and surgeons became the Columbia Medical School. So my point about this is the New York Academy of Sciences, which I'm kind of proud to have been involved with for these last 15 years, doing a lot of wonderful things, it was founded by docs. And the docs really were crucial to the evolution of great science in New York. And the beginning of that in 1817 had Jefferson and Monroe as members, because they didn't want to have an elitist thing like Philadelphia and Boston with a bunch of old white men. They wanted businessmen, they wanted young people, anybody that cared about the future of science. They had a dozen Europeans right from the beginning, so it became global from the beginning. And that was because you docs have a global perspective, even in 1817. And then what comes out of that is an organization that's proud of 20,000 members or 21,000 members in 100 countries. But the special element is we also had 1 out of every 6 Nobel laureates as members in the history of Nobels. So I think I'd just leave it at that this is why we're proud to work with. Well, I'm going to make one more remark. When I came here, there were some problems here at the Academy because they had lost their science. And the people that stood up for science in the Academy were the deans of the medical schools of New York. They were the first ones that realized that if you could have a vibrant academy that would represent all of the interests of New York, it would be transformational. And that's what it's become, thanks to docs. So thank you all for 20 years later coming back here and doing this event. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that retrospective review. I really learned a lot. I'd like to introduce Dr. Louis Ignarro, the co-winner of the 1998 Nobel Prize for Physiology or Medicine, just to offer a couple of remarks. He must be exhausted. He's been telling stories and giving talks all day, and yet, one more time, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
very much. Thanks a lot. Whoa. I feel like I always feel where I live. I live in very close to Hollywood in Beverly Hills with these lights. You know, first of all, it's just an honor and a pleasure to be here and to meet some of the Furchgott family. It's really great. And this view is unbelievable, I must say. Thanks, Alice. And, you know, President Riley talked about where Bob Furchgott was and how he first heard about the announcement of the award on October 12th, which was a Monday in 1998. And so I thought briefly, very briefly, because I'm hungry and I know you're hungry, I'll just tell you about how I heard about it since it was a little different. You know, I was not at home waiting for a phone call. I'm not like that. I mean, I didn't even know when the Nobel Prizes were announced. I knew there was sometime in early October. And I was the director of our pharmacology course at the School of Medicine at UCLA, and which it runs from August till December. And I took a midterm break right in the first weekend, or second week in October, to accept an invitation to speak at the medical school in Naples, where my dad was born, actually, many years ago. And I went to France first because I was on the board of directors of a small biotech company in Nice, beautiful place. And so I was there right after that meeting was over. I went to the Nice airport, got on a plane to take a short flight, I think 40 minutes, to Naples to meet my friends who invited me to give a talk there. And while I was waiting online to board the plane, I think it was about 12:30 or so in the afternoon, one of the airport attendants came by and she said, "Is there a Professor Ignarro here online? Professor Ignarro, are you here?" And I said, "Yes, it's me." She comes over to me and gives me her cell phone and said, you have an important phone call from the United States. Would you like to take it? But you have to make it fast because we have to board the plane. It's going to take off soon." So I panicked because I thought really perhaps it was an emergency, some big problem at home. And so I say, "Hi, hello." And it was my friend Robin Eisner, who's a physician, MD, PhD at UCLA, very close friend. And he said to me, he says, "Lou, how's the weather there?" You called me at 3 o'clock in the morning, your time, to ask me how the weather was in Nice? He said, "Well, actually, I called because did you hear the news?" And I said, "No, what news?" And I hadn't heard a thing. And he said, "You won the Nobel Prize in medicine." And I said, "What?" And so, but you have to understand that for every year for 10 years, he was telling me that this is the year you're going to get the prize. So I figured, and then I thought, well, he's calling me 3 o'clock in the morning his time. How did he know I was at this damn airport? My wife told him. She was too nervous to call. And so as I was continuing my conversation with him, the airport attendant took away the phone and said, "I'm sorry, Professor, but we have to board the plane." So I get on the plane, wondering if this was true or not. I kind of knew the Nobel Prize was announced at that time, but I wasn't sure. So I get on the plane, and I was sitting, toward the front, and I decided I had an idea. So I sat down, honestly, I sat down in my seat, and I looked at all of the passengers who boarded the plane, and I looked at everyone so I could get their attention. I'm staring at them. I thought maybe the announcement made the newspaper, and maybe my photograph was in the newspaper, and that they would see me and say, "Oh, aren't you the one who just won the..." Nobody said anything, and I think they were quite concerned about me. So 40 minutes later, the plane landed in Naples, and the plane is taxiing. There's no real, it's an airport, but there's no building. You have to walk down the stairs to the tarmac in Naples. Naples never changes. My father was born there, I can tell you. And so as the plane is pulling up, I see maybe 100 people, maybe more, standing there. And I thought, And I thought, okay, what does this mean? So I get up, and I'm one of the first ones out of the plane. I'm standing at the top of the stairs looking down, and there are dozens and dozens of camera flashes going off. You know, and I'm thinking, oh my God, what's all this photography? Maybe the president of Italy is on the same plane, you know, as me. So I walked down the stairs, and my friend Pipo, that's his nickname, who invited me to give a lecture in Naples, was there. And he's sweating and sweating. And he says, Lou, have you heard the news? And then I kind of knew, but I said, what news? And he showed me he gives me this piece of paper, which was written in Swedish. It was the press release from the Karolinska Institute. And so I see this big long word in bold font on top. And all I understood was the first 5 letters, Nobel. And then my eyes looked down. I get emotional. And I could see my name. And I didn't even see, you know, who I shared it with. I just saw my name. And I have to tell you, it was really something, because I kind of lost all muscle strength in my skeletal muscle in my legs, and actually went down onto the tarmac. So Pipo and a few other people had to, carry me in and into the airport and sort of, explain everything to me. And it was very a unique way to find out. So anyway, so I stayed in Naples for, a couple of days, because I promised to give 2 lectures to the School of Medicine and the School of Pharmacy. And I wasn't going to just say no, I have to go back home now. The president of the university was calling me, the chancellor, the chairman of the department saying, you have to come home, you have to come home. I said, just wait a couple of more days. I promised I would give this lecture, and then I'll come home. So that's what I did. And so when I got home, of course, my family and many friends were waiting for me at the airport as I came back to Los Angeles. And I remember my mom, she was still alive and doing well at the time. My dad had passed away many years before. And she kind of moved up to me, almost running, to give me a big hug. And she didn't say, congratulations, son. She didn't say, oh, you deserve the Nobel Prize, son. She said to me, son, I want you to remember one thing. You first heard about the Nobel Prize when you were in Naples, where your father was born. That's why you got the Nobel Prize. And she said, and if I were you, I would consider going back to church on Sundays.
And now those of you who did not attend today's visiting professor lecture, you can see why it was so positively reviewed by everyone who was there. I'd like to introduce Dr. Furchgott's daughter, Jane, who seems to be the designated spokesman for the family and has been for as long as I've known Dr. Furchgott. So Jane, could you please come up and just share some words? Thank you. Oh, there she is. The lights are killing.
Thank you. Well, that's some speaker to follow. None of us are public speakers, but I'm the designated daughter, and I'm excited to be here, but I've never been an honored guest when I've done nothing. So it's kind of strange. I mean, my sisters are here, Robert's granddaughters, and one of his great-granddaughters is here too. So we're all here today, and we're just so happy and grateful that the Robert.Furchgott Foundation exists. Because, for instance, when my dad died, there were all the memorabilia, all the awards, and what were we going to do with them? I mean, we all really respect him, and my dad really wanted me to be a scientist. But as it turned out, we all became visual artists. That was our career. But so we had all that stuff, and I'm really grateful to the people here, to Rose and to Dr. Wang, that we were able to have the Furchgott Library as the place where all this stuff would be stored, and the prize itself. And it's so wonderful that the foundation exists so that these things, which mean a lot to us because we loved our dad a lot, but they're inspiration to future generations here. And we love Brooklyn. I can just see as the years I've been to this place, it's so different. People from every color all over the world are the main people here. Things have really changed. Women and young people, it's so wonderful. And I know that would have meant a lot to my dad. I mean, it did. He was here too. But so we're so happy that this exists, and we thank very much all the donors to the foundation, because you're the people that really, make it all happen. And I just want to, I know we're all hungry, so I'll just say a few thanks in particular. I was really happy to meet people here in the pharmacology department that knew my dad, that worked with him. And Dr. Michelson, I just had never known before. And to have her be the president of the foundation, it's just great. I'm just so happy about that. And I just also like to just thank Dr. Wang, which I already mentioned, and also Richard Macchia, who is really close to my dad. And both Dr. Macchia and Rose Jackman, they helped him at really hard times. When my mother died and he was alone, when his partner Maggie had Alzheimer's and he couldn't take care of her anymore, he went through a lot of hard times, and this was his second home. So I'd like to thank those people especially, and above all to Rose, because she was the person whose friendship really mattered a lot to my dad and did a lot and really created this foundation. So thank you all, and I'm so glad to be here with you.
I'm a little bit choked up. One more thing, and then really I'm done. I did just want to introduce to you, like I said, the part of the mission of the Furchgott Society is to give grants and awards to promising young investigators that are affiliated with Downstate. And I just wanted to introduce a couple of our award winners who are here tonight. We have Jesse Sengillo. I know he's here somewhere, medical student. Oh, there he is. Thank you. We have Andrew Mamalis. He's a resident Furchgott scholar. And we also have Naomi Ligon, who is out here, I hope, somewhere. Naomi? Oh, there she is. Naomi is our young scholar. She is a graduate of the Health Science Academy from the Arthur Ashe Institute of Urban Health and is now enrolled at Sophie Davis School of Biomedicine. And she's an extraordinary young woman. I hope you guys get a chance to talk with her as well. But anyway, I'm done. Thank you so much for your patience, and once again for supporting us, for sharing in our joy and our celebration of Dr. Furchgott. And I would not be the president of society if I did not say, if you're not a member yet, now's the time. Now's the time. Thank you all. And enjoy.